make it really hard to play them so that not every deck feels like they have to run them. That's one of our goals with legendaries, that they're hilarious, they do cool stuff, they feel awesome, but not every deck has to run them. I'm okay with our major protagonist characters being run more, like Cypher and Aurora and Runin and Colin. Like they're sort of staples of their strategies, but that's because they're the main characters. I don't want that to be the default for how things work.
Yeah.
I'm getting destroyed.
Well,
he's playing mono blue against me, but he just had the answers. He had punishment to my Waryak. And that's the thing, is why I don't feel Waryak is actually overpowered in the competitive meta. Because if your opponent hits your Waryak with the punishment early on, you just get destroyed. So I don't actually think it's safe to run Waryak as a competitive player, because punishment is such a small cost to keep in your deck. It deals with so many different things very efficiently. It can solve a lot of problems. And you don't need to play it because of the fact that card disadvantage isn't a big deal. So the issue with the funny thing about the punishment is that people should just feel very comfortable running them. And then Waryak decks, Hunted Outlaw decks just auto lose to them because you lose so much value. So my thought process was those cards will keep these Waryaks, these Hunted Outlaws, these things like that, these really powerful neutral rush threats. People will be afraid to run them. And there'll be this really cool game of chicken in the meta where, I think no one's running them, and so I'm going to bring them in and just dominate. But, then other things like Vine Wall are really good against them, like Giant Drosera, Devouring Plant, name changed, are really good against them. So it was all really happy. But as a casual player, you don't know about all this, and you might not even have a full collection. And so I'm just watching everybody lose, and I'm explaining how to beat them, and it's like people still feel like I don't want to earn punishment, a sideboard card. And so as a new player, and you might not have the tools, you might not have the stuff, so we have to reconsider the thing with that in mind. We can't just look at the tournament players.
Yeah, and one thing that you said that I think is interesting, you said card advantage is not really a big deal. And I know I asked you about it in Discord, but I'm sure there are people here watching that don't really understand why. So could you please explain why?
Oh.
Why is card advantage not as important as in Magic the Gathering or Hearthstone, for example?
Oh, it's super easy to explain. The reason is because in both games, you have two resources. You've got in Magic, it's mana. In Hearthstone, it's mana. But you also have, and here it's Faeria, but you also have cards. And the thing is, they have to go together. Your mana or Faeria is not useful if you don't have cards to spend them on, right? So you want to be making maximum use of your resources. Now, in Magic the Gathering and Hearthstone, you have something that's called hand depletion, which means that you're actually going to run out of cards over the course of the game. Because what happens is you play roughly 2 cards a turn. You play a land you play a land each turn, and you play a card each turn in Magic the Gathering. And eventually you get to so many mana that you're actually going to be playing multiple cards anyway, because most of your cards probably cost 2, 3, or 4, and you're going to get to 7 mana, and you'll be playing 3 cards a turn. So you eventually run out of cards. And at that point, you're going to start not being able to spend your 7 mana a turn. And that means you're going to lose all that mana because it refreshes. Now, Hearthstone, that's the same thing happens. You've got you eventually get to 7 or 8 mana, and now you're playing 2 cards a turn. And your hand size just vanishes in most decks. So the thing about card advantage is it's a game of attrition. Whereas in Faeria, you just get an average of 3 Faeria per turn. Now, you start with 3 cards in hand, and if you're drawing a card that costs 3 Faeria each turn, and you're spending that much on average, you're not going to actually ever run out of cards. And there's also the +1 card draw button just in case. So all of this adds up to the fact that you don't actually risk running out of cards in hand, and at that point, card advantage doesn't matter. Now, there is a bit of a confusion when I say this, because actually, I got to concede this game. I'm so dead. Blue just wrecked me. The thing is, he hit me with the punishment, and with 2 Aurora's Disciples out, and at that point, I just was too far back on Faeria to actually come back. Even though I ended the game with 4 cards in hand, I was too low on Faeria. So what happens is, in Faeria, you can play a 1 drop on turn 1. There was a great article on playfaeria.com that used this example. Guys, check out playfaeria.com if you're interested in just really good basic strategy content. And he summed this up really well. You can play a 1 drop on turn 1, then have it harvest and play a 6 drop on turn 2. And the thing is, if you're spending all your turns, saving up 3 Faeria for 2 turns, and then playing a 6 drop, You're actually gaining cards over the course of the game because you're drawing a card each turn. You're playing one every 2 turns. So when I say card advantage doesn't matter, I mean the number of cards in your hand doesn't really matter. But often, like, actually drawing cards can be good because it'll draw you closer to an answer. And sometimes answers are very, very important in Faeria. So card selection, being able to look at more answers, is very useful, but card advantage is almost meaningless. We actually put the 3 Faeria draw 2 cards event in our game, the Arcane Intellect, the Divination, that sort of standard card, as a trap. Specifically, so we could say, in this game, this card's not good, to help teach this lesson.
I phased out a little bit, but I I was doing this whole random thing. Yeah, but I listened to most of what you said, and thanks for explaining.
Sure. This is a conversation that I actually originally had with the rest of the dev team when I was first analyzing the strategy of our new economy system. And I just came back and I said, guys, I think card advantage doesn't do anything. And this is a debate I've been having in waves over the course of a long time. Mm-hmm. Right. Sorry, 1 second. Jen was just reminding me that we're actually staying so late that there's only going to be 1 bus left. So,
all right. I just drew a number, and I'm pretty sure it's... well, I drew number 2. Let's see who was the second person to type key in the chat. Dynamo 33333333. Sure.
Martin's in the chat. Hey, Martin. He's our amazing graphic designer.
Oh,
he's so good.
Martin, you're the best.
You and Jen make the game so pretty. Jen's over here, by the way. She was just telling me we have to leave for the bus and stuff like that.
All right.
It's almost 11:15 here.
You guys worked late.
Well, I've actually been kind of kicking back and streaming tonight. When guesting on streams and playing. People have been making fun of me being low level and stuff because I've been always playing invite games and things like that. So I'm going to play a few games, get at least to a reasonable level. So I jumped like 3 levels tonight already.
All right, nice. Well, I think I'm also going to end my stream, and you should go catch your bus so you get home in time. Thank you so much for hopping in. And,
sure thing. Any last questions or you want to ask about anything? Design of the game especially?
I will think about it and I'll let you know. But maybe someone in the chat has any more questions. I think Jin wrote something earlier. I don't know if you answered to that. He writes, Dan, do you think it should be possible to build a tier 1 deck with only basic cards?
An entire what deck?
A tier 1 deck, like a very strong
deck.
I
got you. No, just because that would mean that you wouldn't get any booster packs and they would completely be meaningless to you. I would like it to be that you can build a tier 1 deck with a small number of non-basic cards. We actually included a huge number of the most important tools in the form... Okay, well, here's the thing. Basic cards exist to give everybody access to the core tools of Faeria, and also to be simple, introduce them to the game. The problem is, a lot of more complex cards are really fun. So if we want to have... put the power into some of the more complex, interesting cards, they're not good for teaching the game. So what we made sure to do is to make a lot of the answers really, really present. Like Humbling Vision is one of the most important answers in the entire format. Frogify is a very important answer. And we put Wind Soldier in, which is just crazy overpowered compared to a lot of things. Like, it's one of the reasons you play yellow. We put in huge amounts of power into these core things to give you the core tools, and then you basically sprinkle the other stuff on top of it. So that's the thing. Is that I don't believe that that if we basically made it that tier 1 decks were super simple and super basic, always, it would not be a very interesting game. So what we want to do is give everybody the core answers, or most of them, and like even the ones we don't give you, like Last Nightmare, which we originally were going to give, but we couldn't for various complex reasons of how the codexes are worked out. We put that as the second lowest rarity above common, and it would have been common if that didn't mess up the limited format. So, like, my whole goal here is to make sure the game is playable, accessible, and so far we've been succeeding, because this is the most cutthroat environment you could have right now in terms of, like, card advantages and collection advantages, because almost everybody in the game right now had access to the free full collection. Normally those people should be less than 1% who have the full collection of a normal format, and my friend Ruben played this format. And what happens is that he got into the game with booster packs less than even the people who didn't take the full collection, and he's one of the highest ranked players there is here. So you can absolutely win with the correct stuff. And yeah, that was an interesting question, and I'm gonna miss my bus. So I'm gonna actually concede my game. Wonderflex, good job, and I'm gonna run for the bus.
All right, hurry.
Or if not, I'll probably be back soon and staying overnight. Bye.
Bye bye. All right, guys. It's 11, and I promised to play a few games with a friend, and I don't want to humiliate myself too much on stream. And this has been a very fun session, and I hope you guys enjoyed the talks in the beginning. And I still have to give the key to Dynamo, so I'll contact him now, and maybe I'll see you guys tomorrow. Good night.